Okay, so looks like it might be working. I'm just going to wait till I can actually see myself on the screen before I ramble at myself for ages. Ooh, nothing happening. Try reloading. Oh, it's live. Okay. Yeah, so just kind of testing also the Wirecast software because I've had a few problems with it. So this is a bit of a last minute random. That's working, great. Last minute random little workshop, and I've not got very long. But this week I have mostly been playing around with using the external instrument settings devices in Ableton to enable me to get sounds out of this Korg EMX, this drum machine here, and use those in some kind of way with my tracks, obviously make them a bit more interesting and also have some sort of more hands-on control for some of the sounds. So I don't know if... Okay, so just get into it. Basically, what I need to do is go into the instruments here, and I need to choose the external instrument, and I need to drag that onto a MIDI track. Now, the external instrument acts very much like an internal VST or an internal device in that MIDI information goes into it and audio comes out. So in this case, what's happening is the MIDI is being sent from the sound card, obviously out of live, from the sound card into the EMX. And then the audio is coming from the EMX and going back into the sound card. Okay, so we have to do a little bit of preference setting up to get it to work. But once we've done that, we'll have an external instrument that we can easily reload in any project. Okay, so the first thing I need to do, which I already have done, is obviously connect it all up. Okay, so I've got audio outputs going into the sound card, MIDI inputs coming in. Okay, so if we go into preferences, all this gubbins is located in the audio tab. And what you'll see obviously at the top here is the audio device that you've selected, being the one that you're using. In this case I'm using the TC Near one here. Okay, and under there you also have these two options to open up the input and output configuration. Now depending on your sound card you'll have a whole different selection of options here. There'll always be the choice of either mono or stereo or both, but depending on the sound card will and how many ins and outs it has will dictate how many there are available. Now it's recommended to only activate ones you're using, and with the input on this I only have 4 analog inputs. These other ones are digital inputs, so I'm not using any of those. And I have the analog ones enabled in both mono mode and stereo mode because I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to use them yet, but I just want all of those channels reading input information. Okay, so that's all good, and yellow is of course active. Okay, so the same goes with the output config, but that should be set up so that you're in this case I've got 4 outputs as well. My monitors are coming from 1 and 2, and at the moment I'm actually using 3 and 4 to feed audio back in to Wirecast so that I can stream it from the same computer that I'm doing this from. Okay, but you shouldn't have to change any settings there because you should be already hearing sound through your monitors. Okay, so that's how that needs to be set up so that you'll be able to see the input channels available. Okay, now I'll close that. We go back into the Ableton, into the session view here, down here into the track view, and have a look at the external instrument device. What we've got here is the first thing is the MIDI 2. Okay, so it's asking us where do we want any MIDI information that's on this track. Okay, I've just created a clip there that wasn't necessary, but where do we want this MIDI information to go? Okay, and where we want this to go is out of the TC Near MIDI port, because that's the MIDI port that I've got connected to the input on the EMX. Now, at this point it's going to ask me for a MIDI channel. Now, pretty standard on any one MIDI cable is that you have 16 possible channels, and what you'll find is that most outboard gear, drum machines, synths and stuff, they either have a fixed channel that they will operate on, usually for older equipment, or you can select what channel they operate on, which is the case for most other equipment, and that requires you getting inside the box with the drum machine or whatever that you're using and finding the menu, if you like, where you get to select what MIDI channel these notes respond to. Okay, now I already know from having gone to MIDI and see what MIDI channel is selected when I choose each of these sounds, and it's telling me MIDI channel 11. Okay, so all the drums are responding to MIDI channel 11, so I choose MIDI 11 here. Okay, and now so if I send signals here, it'll be going into here, but now I need to know where the audio is coming back in from. Okay, so here I've got, and I can see as soon as I drop this menu down, I can see my microphone in channel 1 there. Okay, so that's no good. And the other thing is that you might have the option, of course, to assign specific outputs for the audio on your drum machine or synthesizer. So in this case, there are 4 separate outputs, and I've got the wrong ones plugged in because I'm using the mic. So hang on. Okay, so and I can also specify on here with each individual note which of those outputs it's going to. Okay, so that's done somewhere here as well, output bus. Okay, so you'll have to look a little bit in detail at how that particular piece of hardware works, but it shouldn't be rocket science, and it'll all be under the standard MIDI input settings and the audio output routing settings. Okay, so once that's done, I should start, when I hit this, look, I can see on 3 and 4, I'm getting a signal coming through. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select 3 and 4 as a stereo return. Okay, and now I can hear that. Oh, and that's quite loud. Okay, turn it down a bit. Okay, some of these don't have any sounds loaded into them because I'm not on a particularly interesting patch, but if I just go to something that is, so let's have a listen to that one and this one. Okay, and that one needs assigning to the correct output. Okay, so they're all to the right outputs. So what I'm doing here is I've actually had these set up before for a similar setup, and I have some of these sounds panned to the left and some to the right so that they come out of the left and right outputs, and that enables me to make 2 separate external instruments for the same drum machine, one dealing with higher notes perhaps and one dealing with lower. And I think actually maybe that is what I'll do here. So with the kick drum, what I'm going to do with this first kick drum, I'm going to pan that to the left. Okay, and what you'll see down here is that it starts to you can only see it in channel 4. It's only coming in that one channel. So if I select channel 4 here, I get a mono return. It's obviously showing as stereo here, but it's now back in, it's taken that that left channel and made it into a duplicated stereo pair. Okay, so that's great, and that's only coming out of audio 1, but it's coming into audio 4 on the computer. Okay, so what I could do now is I could duplicate this track, and with this external instrument I'll use the same MIDI output here, but I'll choose the audio from 3, and I'll put the snare hard right. Okay, so on this external instrument track I've got my snare, and on this one I've got my kick. Okay, so very simply now, if I can actually locate where in the MIDI, there it is. Okay, just as simple as that, and then I can play this. And then in this one, I could be having my, let me just find the, okay. So what's happening is that this MIDI information, just to recap, is coming out of this clip. It's going into the external instrument. In this case, it's on MIDI channel 11, and then the audio is coming back through audio 4 in the sound card. Okay, so this kick is coming through that. So what I could do now is I could rename this external instrument EMX, because that's the name of the drum machine, and then kick. Okay, so that's just the kick on that one. And then with this one, which is at the moment picking up the snare on its own, I could rename this one EMX snare and save it like that. And that basically then enables you to call up from your, I've already created it, enables you to go straight into your user library and drag that into any project and immediately start activating your external kick. And of course that's just the beginning of the benefits, because when you start playing, sending MIDI messages to an external instrument and then getting the audio back, you've got all the internal controls of the device available to you, but all the timing is being handled by Ableton. Okay, so here we go. I'll just play this and play around with this kick and snare a bit. Okay, well, obviously getting a bit lost in it there, but you can, then you can do exactly that, which is loads of fun. Get involved with the hardware, and obviously the whole thing about putting, sounds that are coming from outside the box, if you like, into the box, even if they're not like super high quality synthesizers and stuff, it all adds to the like harmonic sort of content of that material. And even though it might not be crystal clean, in a lot of cases that can add a lot to the productions that you do. So the last thing here really just to cover with this using external instruments, because that's how we set them up, but there's one more thing to consider, and that is the latency involved. And when you send a signal out of the sound card, a MIDI signal, into your drum machine, and then that makes a sound, and then it sends the audio back out into your sound card again, and then the sound card processes that again, puts it through the Ableton engine, and then finally sends it back out of there and puts it back out of your monitors, there's going to be quite a bit of latency involved, okay? Obviously depending on how fast your setup is, and it's worth checking in your audio preferences how low you can set your sample rate. When I'm composing, I normally work at about 1:8, and then I crank it up to 512 for kind of mixed down and mastering stuff, and that seems to work fine, but this machine's reasonably fast. So how to work out the latency, what we have to do is basically put in something into Ableton here. We could use the metronome, but that's really annoying, so we just use a clip that we know is bang on in time, or we could even make a really simple drum pattern, a drum rack, and then sync it to that. But yeah, I'm just going to find a closed hi-hat. For want of a really simple sample, huh? No, okay. Let's go for a sample then. Yeah, these ones are pretty tight. Okay. So I'm just going to pull in an audio kick loop, and I'm actually going to go in there and make triple sure that this thing is super tight, because it's not, as you can see. But I'm going to call up just a 1-bar loop here and make sure it's warped nice and tidy. In fact, that's not even accurate enough. That's better. Obviously, with the beginnings of a track, accuracy is super important, because with the very building blocks, all this little tiny bits of detail just to get them right before you start putting them into the track is going to save you. It'll make the sound a lot tighter towards the end anyway. Okay, so now I've got a Ableton synced kick drum here as well. It's probably quite loud. Okay. Now if I play this other kick drum, you're probably going to hear straight away the latency involved. Turn the... Okay. Okay, well, it's maybe a little bit hard to hear clearly, but you can certainly see the meters here. There's a considerable delay between those two. Okay, and the way to deal with this is that, I mean, you could use the track delay here that I quite often use for fixing groove issues in tracks, but the external instrument itself has a specific hardware latency setting here, so obviously that enables you to save it for that particular cable run and that particular hardware device. Okay, so all we have to do is basically adjust this hardware latency until it sounds like it's in time. I find the best way to do that is to go basically through the zone where you know the sync is, so that you're going past it, so you can clearly hear that you've gone out of sync again, and then go back the other way until you can hear again that you've just gone out of sync, so you get an idea of a range, and then you sort of cut that in half, and that should get you pretty close to the accuracy. Obviously, if you use a much shorter sample, then it's a lot easier to get that synchronization sorted, and I could do that, but yeah, maybe let's just do that. No, stick with the program. Okay, just going to get this latency right. Okay, I think it's about 11 milliseconds anyway. And the good thing is I know now that 11 milliseconds will be the same for the snare instrument, because it's exactly the same MIDI cable that the signal's going through, exactly the same routing with the audio as well, so it should be identical latency. If it was a different device, like it was going through the other drum machine or whatever, then it would be a different situation. So okay. yeah, just getting a bit lost in creating some stuff there. But yeah, it's nice having some sounds over here because I can kind of adjust stuff and just let a pattern go and ting. But really nice little trick if you're just using a simple MIDI trigger like that. Okay, and this is quite this is a little bit more interesting because we've also got this latency thing involved between the MIDI note being triggered and the audio actually coming back through live. Okay, but so if we put something like a delay on there, it's interesting what's going to happen because it's all going to be a little bit skewy. Okay, but we can use the sends, so these ones here, like that sort of stuff, to send reverb and delay. And I quite like that really simple effect with a lot of tracks. And if you've only got a really short MIDI clip, there's another way to make interesting envelopes that don't involve making a really long MIDI clip. What you can do, if you go into the envelopes window here, you can actually unlink an envelope. So if I've got, what I've got here is the mixer envelope, I've got the reverb selected. Okay, so if I, at the moment, all I can do is I can draw an envelope within this one bar here. So if I wanted to make a pattern, sort of a variation, I can only sort of do this, which is okay. Here's the delay. But again, you know, it's great, but it's a bit repetitive, even for a repetitive track. So instead of duplicating that MIDI loop loads of times and making it really long and drawing that all in, what I can do is I can unlink the envelope with the actual loop itself, with the audio loop. So that means I can make an envelope loop that's longer than the that's longer than the audio loop. Now it helps to actually draw if you've got specific notes like this. So there's the reverb. I'm just going to draw that on for those two, and also for the delay. Okay. As then when I go to unlink it, I've got some reference points in there. Okay. So now I can make, maybe I'm going to make this a, well, I'm not going to get too crazy, but maybe I'll make it an 8-bar loop. Okay, so bang, that's pretty big. Okay, and then what I might want to do, because it's such a long loop, I might just want to reference all those hits by duplicating that area, so at least I know where all those hits are. And I'm probably going to want to do the same thing. I have to unlink it. Each envelope can be linked and unlinked separately. So just highlight that first and then make this 8 bars long as well. Oh, let's try a different, there's a different thing we can do actually. If we make it 1.5 bars long, okay, then we can do something different. I'll add a different kind of variation to it, okay. And again, if it's 1.5 bars, then we just want to mark in where that other hit's going to be, okay. Now I'm going to go back to the reverb one here. It's got loads of reverb hits in here, and it's really nice and easy now because I can see where all the hits are, and I can play this loop. And at the moment, I'm going to get every time both of the effects, so I can just sort of knock it out for a few here. Maybe that one there. Okay, fairly primitive, but it's working. And then the same with the delay one. Okay, so what we've got is we've got a shorter loop, but it's not a fixed bar length. So it's going to, if we put an irregular pattern in here, so we only trigger the middle one of those 3, then this is going to cycle in a different pattern to the 4/4 beat. So it'll, you know, it'll give it a bit more of the feeling of a bit more variation over time. Okay. Okay, nice and simple, really effective technique. We've still got this other kit going on here as well, which is quite nice. Okay, now, because I'm using the microphone, I've only got 2 of the outputs. I've only got 2, I've actually got 3 inputs available on the back of the TC, but only 2 of them are active because I'm using the mic ins on the front. So I do only have 2 ins. If I had 4, then I could use the 4 separate outputs from the EMX, and I could get them to come into separate channels, and I could use things like hi-hats and cymbals and stuff on separate external instruments. But in this case I can't, so if I want them to they'll have to either come in through the kick channel here or the snare channel here. So I could turn them to, that was a bit loud. If I turn them all to the right, then you'll see turn them all over there. Okay, whatever's happening with that one. It's going through loads of effects, okay. Okay, so they're all coming through this. Oh, they seem to be. Something a little bit strange is going on. It's probably getting messages from somewhere else. Okay, so I go back in here, unfold this, and find some of those other sounds. That one, for example. Just drawing a note there. Gosh, it doesn't get more generic than that, but okay. Yeah, I haven't got much time actually, much more time anyway, so I just thought I'd cover that because it's been something I've been mucking about with this week. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and yeah, I'm going to be back to doing Sunday sessions again this weekend with a bit of luck. So, nice one. Take it easy, boy. Not sure how I turn it off. There we go. That one. Done.